year, 1964. I was 19 years old at the time. Vietnam was starting up. I knew sooner or later I would have to face that. So I decided at 19 years old, let's get this over with, let's get it done with. Let's go into service. I'm not telling you that I would have enjoyed going to Vietnam, but it was my duty. So off to boot camp I went. Probably the platoon that I was with at the start probably had 80 guys. And when you're with 80 guys and you're with them 24 hours a day and you work together, you bond. Friendships are, you manage to have them, you become close. After the boot camp, we went to, some of us of the 80, maybe 30 of us went down to San Antonio, Texas to have, I was a medic in the Army. So from the 80, we went down to 20. We gathered some fellas, some guys joined us, but of the original 80, there was 20. So I was there for probably 10, 11 weeks. And from there, they shipped some of us to Fort Carson, Colorado. And of the 80, which was 20, now 4 of us. Of the original 80, 4 of us are now in Fort Carson, Colorado for more medical training. Being together with the 4 guys for that period of time was interesting. I had other friendships, but with the 4, it was bonding. After Fort Carson, Colorado, we got orders to ship to Vietnam. And the 4 of us went to the same company. It was very interesting. And I thought I knew these fellas. And I did partially, but when all of a sudden you're in Vietnam, and I didn't have anything to do with this, like Tom Vogel's book, I think it was an excellent book, and I never had any of that stuff. But I remember in Vietnam many a time, machine gun bullets coming through our tent. We ran to the foxholes, wondering in the middle of the night what was going to happen next. Was I really prepared for this? Boy, if you want to bond, you bond in a foxhole when the guy next to you, you're fighting for your life together. You're depending on him. And these 4 original fellas, we had been through it all. Many a night I remember standing in that foxhole with them shoulder to shoulder, wondering, are we going to get out of here? But foxhole was almost a place where you got to learn each other better. Can you trust somebody? Can you depend on them? And these 4 guys I learned to depend on. We managed, all of us, to make it through. We all went. We came home the same time. We all went our own separate ways. I wish I could tell you that I had corresponded with them and they with me, but we didn't. But if you were to find one of them right now and ask them, they would tell you that we were friends to the end, to the bitter end. We fought together. We did everything together. But now, Army life is over. We all go our ways. We separate. And here I am, 5 years after I got out of the Army, I came here to church. And now 25 years after that, I'm going to open up my heart. And I'm going to tell you some things that I think to me are very private. I don't like to share them, but somebody asked me the other day, what are you going to speak on? I didn't answer them. I thought about it. Before I go on, I'd like to ask you a question. If you had 45 minutes to talk about somebody that told you everything you ever knew about the Christian life, what would you say? Or, if you had that amount of time to tell somebody about someone who taught you all that you know about the Christian life and Christian service. Or, what would you say about a person who 25 years ago jumped into the foxhole next to me? He didn't have to. He had a life to live. He had churches to go to. I'm a nobody. But for 25 years, we were shoulder to shoulder. And we bonded. And we were a team. We worked together. We laughed together. We fought battles together. We cried together. For 17 of those 25 years, he literally carried me on his back when I had no answer in sight. If I had one verse to describe Brother Hiles to you, it would be this. John 5:35. He was a burning and a shining light, and you were willing for a season to rejoice in his light. He was a burning and a shining light. I've been here for many pastor schools. I've watched preacher boys goggle over Brother Hiles. I watched them follow him around. I've heard them talk about how much they could preach like Brother Hiles. I'm sure our college teaches everything about that. I come from a totally different angle. I wear a suit to work. I wear jeans and a shirt. I look at Brother Hiles completely different. Can't those guys see? I've wondered when I've looked at those preacher boys, can't you see? Is it so hard to see the difference between Brother Hiles and someone else? It was very, very easy for me to see. For one thing, for me, he jumped into the foxhole. He said, Randy, we're in this together, and I'm with you all the way. I wonder if they ever see the tear that always used to be in the corner of Brother House's eye. It was always there. Am I, as a construction worker, am I so observant that I can notice it in a preacher boy who's supposed to look at Brother Hiles and find out what he did and he can't even see it? Are they that dumb, or why can't they see that? For those of you who don't know anything about me, I'll fill you up in a little background. Years ago, I did work as a plumber in Chicago. My wife, Dorothy Ericson, and I came here. we came to church, and for Sunday after Sunday, we heard preachers' sermons, and I thought they were great. Then I came to work here. Then I saw his life. His life was worth looking at. We wanted to hear his sermons and enjoy them, but pay attention. Pay attention to how the man is. I had the opportunity, because him and I did not talk a lot, it was my joy to just observe him and to see the greatness of the man that most people don't even see. After we were here for a while, my wife, Dorothy, had an operation. Operation didn't come out right. She had a brain tumor. When everything was all over, she couldn't walk. She couldn't talk, or barely, and she couldn't see. Very unusual circumstance. For a second now, I'm going to go to my working with Brother Hyles. I had meetings with him every Saturday night at 6:30 for about 23 years. Just him and I. Strangely enough, he thought that I could do anything. He thought that no matter what he gave me, I could do. Many times, Brother Hiles, don't kid yourself, I just know telephone numbers of people that I can call. People that I'm sure the list could go much longer than this, but Ray Shalafu, Dan Gross, Bill Hassey, John Rice, George Yoder, Jesse Browning, Steve Sloan. I just had the ability to know that when Brother Hyles wanted something done, whatever it took, that's what got done. These fellas and many of you guys made me look good. One thing that I believe that Brother Hyles taught in all our meetings, the meetings weren't always fun and games. I was brand new, never was in Christian service, didn't know what to expect. What do you want, Brother Hyles? Tell me what you want and I'll do it. Over in Grace and Truth, chapter 8, it's got a little chapter on little things. It talks about God uses little people, God uses little places, God uses little things. Last chapter is little tasks are important. Let me read that to you. Everything was important to Jesus. He could have preached the Sermon on the Mount every morning, but he did not choose to do so. He could have stilled a storm every evening, but he did not choose to do so. He could have been transfigured every day, but he did not choose to. Every day he could have fed 5,000 people, but this he did not do. He could have ascended to heaven every night and come back the next morning for his work on earth, but he decided against such a procedure. He took time to talk to one woman beside the well, to one man at midnight, to one Zacchaeus up a tree, to one blind Bartimaeus beside the Jericho road. Yes, every task is important. You say, but I'm only a mother. I'm only a Sunday school teacher. I pastor just a small church. Remember, God can use little people in little places with little things, doing little tasks to perform great miracles and works. What did we talk about in his office? What went on? He tried to give me, I believe, his heart. I believe that we became a team, and I was his puppet. He was a ventriloquist. The spirit of Brother Hiles is around this place. When each classroom has the lights on, when chairs are set up straight and arranged properly, when the carpet is clean, when the chalkboards are clean, when the shelf underneath it is wiped clean, when the songbooks on the piano are stacked neatly, when all doors are unlocked and ready, when people bring their children to our nursery and come back because it is clean, when the washrooms are clean and smell pleasant, when we're not too big to bend down and pick a piece of paper up, when the Lord's Supper table in the auditorium is clean and centered, when the flowers on the Lord's Supper table has a Solon's tag on it, and he would come in and take that Solon's tag off. And when one leaf was on that plant that didn't look right, Brother Hiles would pick it off. Little things. When one chandelier light was out, he wanted it replaced immediately. He was a driven man. When the spotlight in the auditorium was out, he knew it. He knew by walking in here that light was out, and he wanted to know, why wasn't he informed? When the windows get washed, when the handprints are off the doors and the glass and the handrails and the walls, the spirit of Brother Hiles, that's what he wanted. When the floors are clean, didn't care for them to be shiny, just clean. When you realize it's an honor to serve, when you do a task that nobody else wants to do, when you understand that serving comes in many different dishes. His logic was this. He would say to me, Randy, let's talk about situation for a second. He said, let's talk about a young child in Chicago that's going to come to Sunday school. And all week long, that bus worker prays for that child. And his Sunday school teacher prays for that child. And on Sunday morning, maybe all week long, they work to get that Sunday school bus ready to go. And on Sunday morning, that bus gets started and it's ready to go. And that bus manages to go all the way to Chicago or wherever and pick that child up. And they manage to pick that kid up. The parents got him ready. Everything is working in order. And we bring that child to Sunday school, and they manage to get him to the right department, to the right teacher. Everybody is prayed up. The lesson is ready to go. They go to the class. The door is locked. What a shame, and what a disgrace, and all the wasted hours, all because one person didn't do a little task. Or maybe the temperature wasn't right. Maybe the lights weren't on. The real Brother Hiles that I knew was someone who little things were very, very important to him. Don't think there's such a difference, a great difference between him and somebody else. It's those little small things that he did that added up that made the difference between Brother Hiles and anybody else. When the baptistry is clean and the temperature is set correctly, these are things he taught me. When people use a sink in the restroom and wipe the sink down because one cometh after them. When the alley is swept on Sunday morning. When the snow is plowed and not only are the parking lots clean, but the sidewalks and the curbs, and the city officials drive by and try to figure out how we do it. That's what, all these things are what Brother Hiles wanted for you. This is how he served you. These little things that you take for granted when you come to Sunday school, that's what was big to him. When you go in your Sunday school class and everything is right, there's a reason for it. The spirit of Brother Hiles does exist. Brother Hiles would, when no one slips on the ice or snow. You see, he wanted it that way. Brother Hiles would take a walk to the nurseries. He would walk in the nurseries and feel the temperature. But that wasn't good enough for him. He would get on his hands and knees and he would feel the floor, because he did not want your kids' feet to get cold. Little things, they add up. I have probably 5 more books in my shop of the temperature in the auditorium. It was a big thing to Brother Hiles. He would call me sometimes in the back and he would say, Randy, there's 2 ladies that I see that look uncomfortable. Can we do something about that? This book here is, I have books for winter, summer, when college students are not here, when they are here, Sunday morning, Sunday night. These are the little things that Brother Hiles wants. These are some of the books. Over here I have a book that gives us temperatures on pastor schools, junior high graduations, high school graduations, City Baptist graduations, college graduations, vacation Bible schools, Ladies Spectacular, youth conferences, Thanksgiving. Keeping you comfortable was a big thing to Brother Hiles. It was not a little thing. He gave and he gave to you. I hope we understand that. The spirit of Brother Hiles exists when everything was big here. And is here. Decide to become a servant. When you decide that all jobs are important. Brother Hiles used to say to me, Randy, anybody can make money. He made a statement to me one time which is as good for me as it is for you. He said, Randy, on your very worst day, the very, very worst day you have, when nothing goes right and you can't figure out anything, your very, very worst day, you're more valuable to the world than Michael Jordan is on his very, very best day. That goes for you too. I hope you understand that to Brother Hiles' little important detail. Those meetings that we had were over and over again trying to take care of you people. Brother Scott the other day talked about serving. You name the subject in the Christian life, it's Brother Hiles. Name it. Don't make any difference which one it is. Serving? No one better. He worked at it. He worked at trying to keep you comfortable in every area. Maybe you took it for granted. I'll tell you a little bit about my wife, Dorothy Ericson. When she got sick, to be very honest with you, I don't think that Brother Hiles knew what to do. What do you do with somebody that all of a sudden can't walk, can't see, can't talk, she crawled? What do you do? There was no solution. I mean, I would have liked to went see Brother Hiles and say, solve this. And I think he would have liked to. He said, tough it out. But he did the same thing that he had been doing his entire life. He jumped in and said, we're in this together. He learned about a foxhole. He learned that I'm there if you need me. And he did this for me for years, folks, but everybody in this whole auditorium, he did it for you too. He lived and died with you. He gave and gave and gave, and he tried to find out ways to serve you, and he tried to do his best for you. So he jumped in. He'd been doing all his life, why change? He tried to encourage me. Brother Hiles would write me little notes just telling me that he loved me. Sometime before he preached, he would call up on the phone, and you probably thought he was adjusting the temperature, wanted me to adjust temperatures. And he would say, Randy, I just want you to know I love you. Not many words needed to be spoken between Brother Hiles and I. Just to look in the eyes. If you looked at him carefully, you find that little tear. It was always there. You missed it if you didn't see it. He took me on some trips with him, which I'll tell you about. When we went on a trip, we always carried a songbook. And so my fondest memories are Brother Hyles and I singing songs out of that songbook. He never wavered from Scripture. Brother Hyles' counsel was always scriptural. Never wavered. He would say to me sometimes, Randy, just doesn't seem fair. If I was God, I think I'd change your situation. It just doesn't seem fair. But he never stopped there. He always said, but I'm not God. And God knows best. One time when we were took me to Florida, my wife getting any better. Sometimes I would come home and she would be laying on the floor. I didn't know what to do. I had visited some places and I thought about a home only because I thought they could care for my wife. And in one of these trips, I told Brother Hiles that. Boy, did he get mad at me. I mean, that night, he yelled and yelled at me. And the next morning, I said to him, Brother Hiles, maybe you should just send me home. This trip ain't working out, and maybe the best thing for you to do is just send me home now. He said, okay, tell you what, I'm going to give you a piece of my mind for 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes we're going to have a great time. And he did. And he was able to do that, and we did have a great time, but Dorothy got worse. Things didn't get any better. The preacher came to me and said, Randy, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will promise you that we'll take Dorothy out to the college. We'll put her out to the college, and we'll care for her out there as best that she can be cared for. I'll try to help you out all I can. I didn't want to do that. I wanted my wife at home. I said, Brother Hiles, let me think about it, and I'll get back with you. He said, fine, you have 1 minute. After 1 minute, I said, okay. He gave me a big hug. Said, I love you. And we cried for quite a while together. Dorothy went to the college. Never said a word. I think she had a heart attack at home. She just stared in space. 2 weeks later, she died. Brother Hiles called me in his office. He said, Randy, remember that conversation that we had just a few weeks ago? How can I forget? He said, I knew when you came in here that night that was a pivotal part of your life. And if you made the wrong decision, you still would be in the same situation that you are right now. He said, in that 1 minute, I was praying and praying and praying that you would make the right decision. I've been very fortunate. I've learned to trust God's man. I've learned when Brother Hiles used to say something to me and I didn't like it. And I didn't want to do it. And I wanted to rebel. But I couldn't. We were in the foxhole together. Of all the pictures or all the treasures that I have that Brother Hiles gave me, oh, he bought suits, yes. That's not my most treasured one. Most treasured one is this. It's a picture of a cowboy who's hanging from a rope. No way out of it. One time, Brother Hiles called me in his office and said, hey, Randy, I saw something for you. I thought you'd like it. Oh, it wasn't as expensive as a new suit. Just a picture. And the caption underneath says, hang in there, old buddy. Now, I'll switch gears for a second. I'll tell you too, when Brother Hiles knew that your heart was here, when Brother Hiles knew that you were giving everything that you could, when Brother Hiles knew that this ministry was in your blood and it was your life, I'll show you how you reacted. 2 big mistakes. Years ago, we had a pastor's school, and down at the Civic Center, they were going to baptize people down there. Brother Hiles said to me, Randy, I'd like you to go down there. I'd like you to build a baptistry ahead of time. I'd like you to go down there because we're going to have a giant night, and I want to baptize all these people. And I did. And on Sunday, on the morning, I went down there to fill it up. Now, we're not going to baptize till 9 o'clock at night, and this was probably 8 o'clock in the morning. And my thoughts were, how am I going to keep this water warm? These people are going to freeze. I don't know what to do. So I put as hot a water into it as I could, and I filled the rest up with cold water. And I went down there probably during the daytime 7, 8 times, and I'd stuck my arm in there, and I'm thinking, oh, these people are going to freeze. So I had a brilliant idea. I decided to take and put a cover over it so it would keep the heat in. I thought it was brilliant. So that night, Brother Hiles preached, and I was off to the side, me and a preacher by the name of, who's now a preacher, Tim Young. And Brother Hiles had told me, when I give you the word, I want you to take the lid off. So he had preached. He looked over at me, said, could you please take the lid off now? And when I did, this big cloud of smoke rose from the baptistry. That meant it was hot. Brother Hiles went to get his waders on. I'm only 10 feet away. But I heard him with his waders on. Ooh, oh, this water is hot. And the people were cringing. I thought that no one would get baptized. And this big night that Brother Hiles had planned, I put the finishing touches on it. Well, immediately, the only thing that I knew to do, he would look over at me and sweat was running down the side of his face, and he took off his glasses and he put them on the side, and every time he looked at me, he'd say, this water is hot. So the only thing that I knew what to do was come back to the church and write a letter, and the words never flowed so fluently as I wrote this 10-page letter telling him what an idiot that I was. I didn't want to face him. 2 days later, I did see him. Wondering what he was going to say. He laughed. Another time, the Walker building over here we were dedicating it, and we had just put new carpet in, and Brother Hiles wanted me to put 2 brass chairs and a table in there, and he wanted me to anchor them down so nobody would take them. So I went in there and I anchored them down, but as I was anchoring them, I used lead to pour in to anchor them down, and the hole must have had damp in the water, and the lead flew everywhere on the carpet, and there was little holes about the size of a quarter all over the carpet. This was Saturday. Brother Hiles. So I ran to his office. I told him what I had done. He said, let's go take a look. He went over there with me, and I did not know what to expect. He said, let's hop in the car. And we went from florist to florist, buying all kinds of the largest arrangements of flowers that we could, and that whole lobby was loaded with flowers, and people thought they did not know the real story. On the other hand, I will tell you one time when I did something right. Boiler down at City Baptist had went bad. Insurance company came out, and a company came out and said it was, a boiler company said it would be $25,000 to replace it. I went to Brother Hiles and said, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but this doesn't look real good. He said to me, Randy, I want you to go down there and I want you to represent me as good as you could. So I went down there, insurance company, boiler company. After all their talk, and I was listening, they said, yes, it was someone's fault down there. You'll have to pay the $25,000. That's your problem, not mine. But I kept hearing those words of Brother Hiles, you're going to represent me. So I decided to have a $25,000 fit. And I called that insurance company everything that I could possibly call them, and I called the boiler company everything that I could. And I just had a tirade for about 8 minutes. They looked at me and said, we'll take care of it. I went back to Brother Hiles. He said, thank you very much. Often these words that little things I'm going to tell you here are remarks that I had heard from Brother Hiles. Many of you have heard them. We wouldn't want to give you something hard to do. Do you want me to do it? Trifles make perfection, and perfection is no trifle. He refused to believe that something couldn't be done. Nothing was impossible. Always find a way to get the job done. I learned, never take all the credit. Share it because you may have to face the blame also. Don't call in sick, crawl in sick. 2 examples of you could not outgive Brother Hiles. You could not. Years ago, Brother Hiles used to drink I'm going to guess it was a quart of carrot juice. He used to get it from the health food place down here in North Hammond. And one day he said to me, Randy, I'd like to have somebody pick up that carrot juice every day. He gave the person $16.25 every day to go pick up the carrot juice. They made it. That's what it cost. So I got my custodians together and I said, fellas, you got a great opportunity. Brother Hiles would like you every day to go down and get this carrot juice for him and put it by his door every morning at 9 o'clock. They weren't interested. I said, fellas, I'll do it. So I did. I used to go down there, pick up the carrot juice, pay the man, bring it back, put it by his door. And then I had a thought, $16.25 for a little thing of carrot juice seemed an awful lot of money. So I bought my own juicer, got my own carrots. I would get the $16.25 from Brother Hiles every day. Mrs. O'Brien was in charge of the finances. I would put the juice out there, and then when I got enough money, maybe $400 or $500, I would go to Brother Hiles and we'd have a meeting, and I'd have it all rolled up as tight as I could. And on my way out, if I gave it to him earlier, I knew what would happen. So I did this, and I enjoyed doing that. I thought, you can't get back at me now. Except one Christmas, I was here working, Brother Hiles was here working. Guard came up to me and said, Brother Hiles wants to see you. I said, were you in his office? He said, yes. I said, was the temperature okay? Was the lights running? I mean, does everything seem like it was all right? Did he seem comfortable? Did he seem like he was mad? He said, no. I said, oh, well, I'm not going to see him. So all day long, I managed to evade it, and the guards would say to me all the time, did you know Brother Hiles wanted to see you? So finally at nighttime, it was about 6 o'clock at night, I was ready to go home, and Brother Hiles happened to come out of his office. And he said, Randy, where you been? I said, preacher, I've been busy. He said, I've got a Christmas present for you. He sent me to Florida, sail fishing for a day with Ray Shalafu. He specified Ray Shalafu because Ray has given and given and given also. So Brother Hiles sent us down there. Funny thing was, we went fishing that day. Brother Hiles had arranged for the pastor there to take us out to eat. We got home probably 10:30 at night. Phone rang. It was Brother Hiles. So Brother Hiles sent us down there. Funny thing was, we went fishing that day. Brother Hiles had arranged for the pastor there to take us out to eat, and we got home probably 10:30 at night. Phone rang. was Brother Hiles. I said, where have you been? He said, I have called you at 4 o'clock. I called you at 4:30. I called you at 5 o'clock. I called you at 5:30. I went to preach. I called you at 9 o'clock. I called you at 9:30. Exactly, where have you been? I said, we were out. He just wanted to know how we did. Now, this is the man from the world's largest Sunday school who's got his hands full. But he had time to call me every half hour. Another situation. My first wife had died. I was dating Adrian, but I had a Chevy S-ton pickup. And to get 4 of us into that was mighty tight. So I went to Brother Hiles and I said, preacher, do you ever come across a car at all? He said, wait a minute. He went and he got some keys and he said, there's a car out there. Why don't you try this one out? And he threw me the keys and I went out there and it was this black Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. We call it the Batmobile is what we ended up doing. And I looked at it and it's too fancy for me. He said, just drive the thing, see what's going on with it. So I drove it, and it had a tendency to overheat. I did not want to buy the car. It was not for me. But I did not want to give the car back to him overheating, so I had it fixed. I then bought another car. After I bought another car, I brought the keys to Brother Hiles. And I said, you know that black car that I've been driving? He said, yes. I said, well, we bought another car. I said, I bought another car and I really don't need the black car, but preacher, I found what was the problem and now you can sell it. It works fine. He said, how much you pay for that? I said, oh, $125. Huh, he said, you just bought the car. Because of Brother Hiles, I gave a car to my in-laws. My in-laws gave a car to Ray Shalafu. Ray Shalafu gave a car to his daughter, all because you could not outgive Brother Hiles. You could not. Odds and ends. He would take me out to breakfast each Christmas. After we went out for breakfast, he would take a ride and he'd say, I want to show you some places that I pray. He took me to some forest preserves. Then he said to me about a month later, you know, Randy, what you ought to do is on Saturday afternoon, you ought to go to that forest preserve and take your Bible and you ought to just spend time alone with God, just you and God in that forest preserve all by yourself. Well, it worked for him, so I thought, I'll do that. So I went to this forest preserve on a Saturday afternoon. I was big forest preserve, but I was the only one in it. I parked my car on one end of it, the only one there, got a lunch, and I thought this is going to be an enjoyable time. Except one car pulls up about this far from me of that whole empty parking lot, and this guy looks over at me and he goes, hello. Started the car. Went to the other side of the forest preserve. Now I'm the only one there. And another car pulls up to me, rolls down his window and says, it's a nice day out, isn't it? Started the car, came back to the church. I told Brother Hiles I met some of his friends. But you never could get the best of them because he had said to me, they never came up to me. Time is fleeting. Other stories, yes. Other heartwarming stories. I owe Brother Hiles a lot. Tell you what I owe him the most for. The job, yeah. His love, of course. When we used to take a trip, though, he used to always, for some reason, talk to me about raising children. And here I was at the time, we had no children. I used to wonder, wow, Brother Hiles, he was like a wind-up thing. When you bring up a subject, just get him going. He'll keep going. And he would talk to me for hours. We would take a walk, and he would talk to me about raising children. And I would say to him, Brother Hiles, I don't understand why you're doing this. I don't have any kids. You never know. You never know. My wife died. I started dating Adrian. Brother Hiles was a little apprehensive because she had two girls that were 12 and 13, junior high age, and Brother Hiles felt like, I don't know if you can handle them. I said, Brother Hiles, don't you remember those long walks? Don't you remember those times you used to tell me about kids? Don't you remember when you used to open up your heart to me and tell you about kids? Brother Hiles, I was listening. We got married. After our second daughter got married, both of them to preachers, which does not make them any better than anybody else, but it means that something was done right. Something. Brother Hiles called me in his office. He hugged me. Told me how proud he was of our girls. I told him they should get the credit. And I told him, Brother Hiles, I told you I was listening. I owe an awful lot to the man. I'm sorry. Time is short, and I passed over some pages that I thought would be interesting. But I owe my life to that man. And you do too. Thank you very much.